Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family. Thank you very much for joining us today, this evening, despite the weather conditions there. And please accept our apologies for not being able to join you there physically. Our flights were canceled twice, and this was one of those things that when it didn't happen the third time, we kind of got happy. We didn't want to push it. So not one of those things that you want to happen 3 times. So apologies there. I wanted to start our presentation by thanking the organizers for inviting us to speak and present our work before you this evening. A number of them I've personally known for over 2 decades, and that just adds to the whole emotional aspect here, reconnecting with them again. Others I've gotten to know only recently, but we've become big friends, and I admire their dedication to Armenia and our Pan-Armenian causes. I want to start by also saying happy birthday to Armenian Renaissance. It's a privilege and indeed an honor for us to speak at your inaugural event. Seeing my former colleagues and classmates, actually, from American University, young and talented professionals join efforts with the community leaders like Pigen Atarian and Zario Zunyan. Makes me confident that the Armenian Renaissance of Toronto will have a great future, and just knowing that we just being part of the same global network of organizations that has mushroomed in recent months, the Armenia-centric organizations, makes me very proud to be part of that same network. So with that caveat, with those observations, let me proceed to the core of our presentation and share with you the work that Zaven and I and others at the Policy Forum Armenia have been doing since its inception nearly 5 years ago. I will be switching the screen to the PowerPoint slides and hope you will see them all. We titled the presentation "The Armenian Elections: Taking Stock and Looking Forward," and then with the subtitle "How the Analytics Could Help Expose Election Fraud." But before we go to the core of the presentation about the report, which Zaven would do, he will do the heavy lifting, and I get the easy part today. I want to do a brief introduction and give you a sense of who we are and why we are even qualified to talk about this subject and other subjects that we have spoken about and we've presented our views on. When you Google PFA, you get all sorts of stuff. You'll be surprised. And with the likes of Popular Front of Azerbaijan, the Professional Footballers Association, the Predictive Failures Analysis, and here's my favorite, the Protection from Abuse. It turns out that we're none of the above. But on a more serious note, Policy Forum Armenia is a virtual think tank is an organization that consists of professionals who contribute their effort on a volunteer basis to help enhance the discourse around Armenia's economic development and national security issues, offer alternative views on those subjects, and through that create better informed public. Policy Forum Armenia is a virtual think tank that unites professionals from all over the world with interest in Armenian affairs, that contribute their time on a volunteer basis to enhance the discourse on issues relevant for Armenia and the diaspora, the public discourse, to offer alternative views, and through that create an informed public and more accountable government. We have a formidable media internet presence reflected first and foremost in our state-of-the-art website, which we launched recently, that contains information about our main products, our reports, our press releases, the information about our public events that we do with partners throughout the world, but also other information that could be relevant for policy analysts and researchers that are interested in Armenian, pan-Armenian issues. As I emphasized, we're all volunteers. PFA's main assets is its 55-strong core of public policy professionals with expertise in economics, governance, law, and other areas relevant for public policy. Our members are based essentially around the world, which makes Policy Forum Armenia a global outfit. I want to walk you through our main products that we've issued essentially since our inception, that have produced, that resulted in some exposure for PFA, and provide a basis for our future work. The first and foremost, I think when the Policy Forum was formed, the objectives were slightly different. The topics we were about to embark on were much less controversial. But what followed after the dramatic events on March 1st and 2nd in 2008, in many ways changed the course for Policy Forum Armenia's work, and also the way we looked at Armenia's problems and the problems of the nation as a whole. That essentially led to the publication of our first report on 2008 presidential election that looked at what happened on that day, both from an independent observer's point of view, but also undertook a serious statistical and econometric analysis of the official election data, pinpointing the extent of fraud that the authorities used to produce the election outcome. Our next move was to look at the implications of the global crisis that was looming back in late 2007 and 2008 on Armenia's economy, and that resulted in our second report that took a very detailed look at Armenia's economic, financial, and social vulnerabilities, and offered a plethora of policies, recommendations to that effect. Some were taken on board by the government, most were ignored. What followed then was Yerevan's mayoral elections in 2009, and there too we thought PFA needs to say something. To us, that in many ways was a continuation of the same fraudulent election conduct that brought people to power that were neither qualified nor in any other way capable of running nation's affairs at a point where the country was going through one of the most dramatic reductions of gross domestic product in the world during the recent crisis. Our next report brought us back to our initial thoughts and ideas, one of which was to look at the relations between Armenia and the diaspora and try to assess, give a critical assessment of where we stand. Unfortunately, our findings that zoomed in on contributions of the diaspora along three critical dimensions: economic development, civil society strengthening, and public governance, were not very encouraging. The report concluded that not only the traditional diaspora structures failed to generate, to produce a meaningful a vision for Armenia, and for the nation as a whole, it, perhaps more importantly, it failed to signal, it failed to tell the regime in Yerevan what is allowed and what is not. It did not draw the line, the consequences of which we're suffering to this day. Quicker, literally 5 seconds each, about the next reports. The one that has gotten us perhaps most kudos was the state of Armenia's environment. That is also probably one of the most widely cited ones, that took a look at the current state of Armenia's environment, but also with the help of a case study that allowed us to zoom in on the specific problems of the specific case, allowed us to project the harm that is coming our way if we do not change the policies, the way we're addressing our sustainability of the economy and of the resources. Next one was the second report on Armenia's economic conditions in February 2012. That was a critical point where we tried to build on the report that we've done earlier in 2008. But in this particular case, we essentially showed to what extent that the state capture present in Armenia, which is the extent of control by a small group of special interests, controlled by those people of economic and social policies, results in suboptimal policies and suboptimal outcomes on economic and social front. And last but not least, something we will talk about in great detail later today, is the Armenia's 2012 parliamentary election. By itself, it probably was not as important as the one we started with back in July 2008. But to the extent that it offers, again, as I mentioned before, gives the pattern, talks about the pattern of election conduct, and perhaps more importantly, as Zaven will talk more in detail, shows the new forms of fraud employed by the current regime in power. This report offers value. This is how our report on environment looks. If we want to get a sense of how it looks, and also perhaps by the way, something that we make available not only online but also in beautifully designed and bonded hard copies. If you want to obtain one, we'll be more than happy to send it to you. But the organizers will hopefully help you get in touch with us, and we'll be
happy to provide copies for a nominal fee. This was the report on Armenia's economic catastrophe, as we coined it, the one in February 2012. I want to basically spend next 15 seconds to tell you about an important element that the Policy Forum has, that in many ways is part of our quality control of our work. Recently, we launched our academic work, which involves several prominent academics and policy professionals that offer, as I mentioned already, quality control of our work, but also guidance in terms of topics that are important for the nation and the country that our researchers within PFA should focus on. Some names you will recognize immediately. Others, we encourage you to browse our website to get to know better. And perhaps my last slide that I wanted to put to just give you a sense of whether any of this is important, whether any of this gets noticed at all. And many people, especially in the early months and years of our existence, would raise this question. Who's going to look at your stuff? Who's even going to bother? But it looks like some people do. And I want to just literally read for you a citation mentioned by a little passage from the report presented by Professors Rob Kitchen and Mark Boyle from the National University of Ireland to the government of Armenia, a report which was solicited by the government of Armenia, paid for the government of Armenia, where they mention priority #1 for Armenia in its efforts to enhance cooperation with the diaspora. And here's what the report says, and I quote, "Armenia needs to continue to work collaboratively with the diaspora to harness the resources, energy, and self-organizing capacities of the diaspora. Its new and strong institutional capacities notwithstanding, it must work to find a way to bring its new diaspora planning infrastructure into partnership with the diaspora. Policy Forum Armenia, PFA, which has hosted 2 conferences thus far in Yerevan and Washington, provides an important vehicle for dialogue." So without further ado, I want to move away and let my colleague and good friend Dr. Zarben Kalajan take over and tell you more about our forensic approach to election fraud.